Welcome guys to another tutorials on statistics. In today's tutorials we're going to construct a frequency distribution, but before we go ahead and do that, let me go ahead and define a couple of things real quick. The first thing let us to define will be the midpoint, and the midpoint will be what we will say. The midpoint will be, we take the lower limit, we're going to add that to the upper limit, and then we divide by 2. That will be the midpoint. Let's take a look at relative frequency. Relative frequency be what? We take the class frequency and we divide that by sample size. Then the final thing I want us to define will be class width. Class width will be what? We take the range and we divide that by the number of classes. Alright, so these are the 3 things I want us to define. Let's go ahead and construct a frequency distribution. For us to be able to do that, this is going to be our solution. Let me delete this part and write answer. I could write solution too, it don't matter. So the solution, and first I want us to define will be the class. I mean the number that given to us was 7. But let's go ahead and read the question first. The following sample data set lists the number of minutes 50 internet subscribers. So 50 internet subscribers will be the number of the sample size they spent on an internet during their most recent session. They want us to construct a frequency distribution that has 7 classes. So the classes here is 7. What else did they give us? Our sample size is 50, and that will be it. For us to consider the frequency distribution, we need a class, the lower limit, the upper limit, the midpoint, the frequency, relative frequency, and cumulative frequency. So for us to do that, I want us to go and get a table to put everything in. So let's get a table here with, say, let me insert a table with 7, say, columns, maybe 9 columns and 8 rows. Let me go ahead and put them here. The first one I want to have is the classes here. The classes here, and I'm going to have the lower limit, and I'm going to have the upper limit, and I'm going to have the midpoint, and I'm going to have the frequency, and I'm going to have the relative frequency. The relative frequency, say, and I'm going to have the cumulative frequency. So these are things I need here. We have 7 classes, so you're going to put them down here. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the lower limit, we'll begin here by counting the lower limit from here, which says 7. That's the lowest number you could find here. But the next lower limit, you cannot know the next lower limit unless you define something here called class wide. To get a class wide, we say that you have to know the range, the maximum number minus the minimum number. So the maximum number here is 86, which you could find here. The minimum number here is 7, which you could find there, and you're going to divide that by 2. Now you're going to divide that by the number of classes, 7, and that's going to give you the class width. So you're going to have 79 divided by 7, and then the answer is going to be answer going to be 11.29. Now when you have 11.29 with regards to frequency distribution, you approximate it to 12. Why? Because this is not fractions, so we approximate to the next value after 11. So when you have 11.1, you approximate it to 12. So that will be our class y. So for us to get the next lower limit, you have to add a class y to the next lower limit. So you add 12 to 7, and that gives you 19. You do it again you add 12 to 19, it gives you 31. Add 12 to 31, it gives you 43. You add 12 to 43, it gives you 55. And you continue that way. The upper limit, however, the first number is one short of the next lower limit here. So you have 19. So the upper limit here, the first one will be 18. And then you do the same, add 12 to it. Add 12 to 18, it gives you 30. Add 12 to 30, it gives you 42. And you keep going that way. Then when it comes to the midpoint, what we define as midpoint will be, let's go ahead and get a midpoint. You take the lower limit, you add it to the upper limit, and you divide by 2. So you take the lower limit, 7 plus 18, the upper limit, and divide by 2. So you have 25 divided by 2, which is 12.5. So you put 12.5 as the first lower limit. As the first lower limit. The next lower limit will be, you add 19 to 30, which is 49 divided by 2, which is going to be 24.5. And you do the same across. You add this and divide by 2. You get here you get 36.5. The next one, you get 48.5, 60.5, 72.5, and then you get 84.5. Now you go to the frequency. The frequency is how often a number is between 7 and 18. So we find the number between 7 and 18. How many do we have? When we count 7 and 18, we have 11 as 1, 17 is 1, 17 is 1, 11 is 2, 7 is 3. We count and then we're able to know that there are 6 of them. We have 17 and that's 7, so 5. And the last one is 18, 6. So you have 6 numbers between 7 and 18. You put it here. Same thing we do between 19 and 30. How many numbers do we have here? We figured it were 10. And you do the same across. You have 13. And then we keep going. We have 8. And then we have 5. And then we have 6. And then we have 2. Then you go to relative frequency. Relative frequency we define here as the class frequency over the sample size. So what is the class frequency here? 6. So you have 6 divided by the sample size. The sample size is given here as 50 in the subscribers. I wrote down here sample size is 50. So you just take 10 divided by 50 as well. You can do the same. 13 50 here. You go 8 divided by 50. You go 5 divided by 50. 6 2 divided by 50. And the cumulative frequency, you take the first frequency, you add it to the next frequency and write it down. So 6 plus 10 will be 16. You take this frequency and add to the next frequency. 16 plus 13 will be 29. You take that 29 and add it to 8 again and write it down here. That's what you do. And then you take 37 and add it to 5, and then you keep going that way. So it becomes 42, 48, and here becomes 50. So this is how we do we consider frequency distribution. In the next tutorials, we're going to take a look at how to do the histogram and the rest. I hope these tutorials went well. You guys have a nice day.